For the latest, we go to Newswatch 16's John Kosich live in Carbondale. John?
Susan, most of the debris from the two buildings that collapsed has been removed here along North Main Street in Carbondale, giving inspectors their first true look at the damage inside the adjacent buildings. We have some pictures that we want to show you that were taken just about 35 minutes ago. I went along with the fire chief into Wallace Furniture, one of the two buildings adjacent to the ones that collapsed. Now inside you can see the structural damage caused by the falling debris that just pushed the walls in. These pictures are just from the first floor. The damage, we're told, is worse in the basement. Now the fear of this building and McCrory's on the other side collapsing is what made the removal of the debris a slow and tedious process. As crews pulled down the chimney of the Wallace building in an attempt to shore up the structure, other workers continued to remove debris from the two buildings that collapsed just before noon here in Carbondale. The immediate focus of rescuers at that time was getting to Mayor Joe Vadella. He was walking in an alleyway, checking out reports of falling bricks when the buildings collapsed. He told us from his hospital bed that he thought at first he was dead, but then came the fight to survive.
But I noticed that there was some space where my legs were. An area about maybe 14 inches. So I wriggled my way across the nails and everything to that spot to get my chest to an area where I could have air.
Ron Tisano describes how they tried to cut through the second floor wall of the collapsed building to get to the mayor.
The mayor was down at ground level between those two windows.
So when you looked out the hole that's carved right there, you saw what?
We looked out through the windows, we saw the mayor, and we could even talk to the mayor. But it was such a small space, he was just pinned in there, he couldn't move.
Because of that, crews had to cut through the firewall, the McCrory building next door, to finally get the mayor out. Now the concern is making sure the McCrory building and the Wallace building on the other side stay standing. Fire and engineering inspectors used our pictures from Skycam 16 to assess from the air the damage.
We do have structure damage both at the Wallace building, if you notice, and we also have structure damage here at the McCrory's building.
And you were able to see that from above?
From above with your pictures, we could see where more or less the two buildings, when they flared out through both alleys.
Now a total of 6 people were injured in the collapse here today, 4 of them in the collapse itself, 2 others in the rescue. Of those 6 people, 2 remain hospitalized. The first is Michelle Riley. She is a tenant in one of the apartments in one of the buildings. She was in critical condition when last we checked at Marion Community Hospital. The other, as we mentioned, was Mayor Joe Vadella. He is in stable condition tonight at Scranton's Community Medical Center. Now, there was some confusion earlier about when the initial call of bricks falling first came into City Hall. Was it possibly made as early as last week? We spoke with the mayor tonight as well as the owner of the building, and they both agree that the first call that came into the police department came in just this morning, just before the building collapsed. John Kosich, Newswatch 16, reporting live in Carbondale. Susan?
John, even though it's late, are there onlookers there?
There are plenty of onlookers, and they are being kept about a block away. And the reason why, even though there may not be a concern right now of those two buildings collapsing, there is glass in those buildings, and the building shifting just a bit could send shards of glass flying that could, as the fire chief said, act like bullets. So they're being kept about a block away here tonight.
And we'll continue to cover that story. Okay, thank you, John, for that report.